Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire comes into effect after months-long fighting. Netanyahu says won't hesitate to strike if any part of deal broken. In Bangladesh, massive protests over arrest of Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna Das. 1 dead. Pakistan government's midnight crackdown ends protests by Imran Khan's party in Islamabad. And India's Divith Reddy becomes World Under-8 chess champion. First up, news from West Asia. Hamas has said it was ready for Gaza truce following ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. As per reports, Hamas has informed mediators in Egypt, Qatar and Turkey that they are ready for a ceasefire agreement and a serious deal to exchange prisoners. Earlier, US President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron said on Tuesday that they were pushing for an elusive ceasefire in Gaza and that it is possible that Saudi Arabia and Israel could normalize relations. A temporary yet much-awaited relief for several displaced civilians at Israeli-Lebanon border as ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon comes into effect from 2:00 GMT or 7:30 IST on Wednesday. Here's more in this report.
It is a breather for these civilians as ceasefire comes into effect. These are the visuals of traffic on the road near Sidon. The displaced people are returning to southern Lebanon. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon came into effect from 2 hours GMT or 7:30 IST on Wednesday after 14 months long conflict that started on October 7th last year with Hezbollah launching cross-border strikes on Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a televised speech said that Israel is implementing the ceasefire deal to bring a halt to its conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon but will respond forcefully to any violation.
So why implement a ceasefire now? There are 3 main reasons. The first reason is to focus on the Iranian threat. The second reason is to give our forces a breather and replenish stocks. And the third reason for having a ceasefire is to separate the fronts and isolate Hamas. From day 2 of the war, Hamas was counting on Hezbollah to fight by its side. When Hezbollah is out of the picture, Hamas is left alone in the fight. Our pressure on it will intensify, and that will help us in our sacred mission of releasing our hostages.
The ceasefire agreement was brokered by the United States and France.
Fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
Je tenais à saluer l'accord de cessez-le-feu agréé.
This ceasefire needs to be respected in the long term. In order to restore the Lebanese people's security, the Israeli people's security, permit the safe return of displaced people from these 2 countries to their homes, and therefore allow the restoration of the sovereignty of the Lebanon. This agreement should also open the path for a ceasefire too, long awaited with regard to the incomparable suffering of the population in Gaza.
The Israeli army, warned soon after the ceasefire began, said that residents of South Lebanon should not approach Israel Defense Forces positions and villages its forces had ordered to be evacuated. As part of the truce, Lebanon forces will begin their deployment towards the south over a 60-day period, during which Israel will have a phased withdrawal from Lebanese territory. The deal also requires Hezbollah to retreat from the southern border. Leaders from across the globe are welcoming the deal.
So we will be working with the new Trump administration in a good manner and look at what is ahead of us. I have some experience to working with President Trump from his former mandate, so there's something to build on. And I think very important is that we analyze together what our shared interests are and work with that.
The ceasefire promises to end a conflict across the Israeli-Lebanese border that has claimed several lives. But will the conflict actually end remains to be seen. With Bureau Inputs, Ayushi Bhatnagar's report for DD India.
Well, India has welcomed the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, "We have always called for de-escalation, restraint and return to the path of dialogue and diplomacy. We hope these developments will lead to peace and stability in the wider region." All right, and DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us live to give us more inputs on this. Hi, Akshay. Could you explain what is the current situation in West Asia right now? After Hamas also said that it's ready for Gaza truce.
Well, Siddharth, let's start talking about this latest development that has come, and that is an approach of Hamas towards a ceasefire deal with the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government as well. Now, this latest development is coming soon after the ceasefire started between Hezbollah and the IDF that have been fighting against each other in the southern part of Lebanon. So after days and rather months of countries like the US, Japan, France trying to get these two sides on the discussion table and agree for a ceasefire, finally it has happened. Yesterday there was a cabinet meeting of the Israeli government where a decision was taken by the government that a ceasefire will be implemented as far as fighting Hezbollah is concerned. Now, what happened in this ceasefire is the Israeli Defense Forces that is operating inside the southern part of Lebanon will be going back to the Israeli territory, and that will happen in a phased manner, whereas the Hezbollah will also move northwards of Litani River, that is the northern part of Lebanon now. So that essentially means that the southern part of Lebanon will now be patrolled by the Lebanese army, and neither IDF nor Hezbollah will be present, which can be a significant step as far as the ceasefire is concerned. On that front particularly, there is some relief, some respite coming in for the West Asian region, because after days and months of escalation after escalation taking place, the world was at the brink of war, especially in West Asia, and now with the ceasefire agreement, this is in fact a significant step toward peace. Whereas the Israeli Defense Forces have intensified their operations inside Gaza against Hamas operatives, and seeing that after a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israeli Defense Forces, the entire focus of Israel will now be on eliminating Hamas leadership. Hamas has also offered for a ceasefire. So it remains to be seen that how it will be implemented, what are the terms and conditions. But the only reason it seems that a ceasefire between Hezbollah and IDF could take place was also that the Israeli government said that our primary enemy is Hamas right now. We have to focus on Hamas, and that is why if Hezbollah doesn't interfere, we can totally focus on targeting the Hamas operatives and the leaders, and perhaps that is why the popular opinion also agreed to this particular ceasefire. ceasefire, but the ceasefire with Hamas is entirely a different question. Back to you.
Definitely. Akshay, as far as the conflicts between Israel and Lebanon and Israel and Hamas are concerned, and there is some good news, like you've just mentioned, that, ceasefire deal, at one place, at one end has happened, and on the other place, you said that, it completely depends on terms and condition. What would they be? But in near future, can we expect a full stop as far as the conflict between the entire region is concerned?
Well, it's hard to predict, Siddharth, but as far as the expert opinion goes, and from what we have also been reporting about West Asia and this entire conflict, it is highly unlikely that there will be a full stop to the conflict. Well, we are talking about the near future. We are talking about the IDF operations against Hamas. Now, Hamas was the organization that launched the terror attack on 7th of October. The primary aim of the Israel Defense Forces is to eliminate Hamas leadership completely so that they never pose a threat to Israeli civilians and territory again in the future, and that is the reason why it is highly unlikely that the public opinion, especially inside Israel, will ever agree for a ceasefire with Hamas, especially when they have the Hamas leadership now cornered completely. So this is a good opportunity for Israel to in fact retaliate against Hamas and in fact completely wipe them off, and on the other hand, after the election of Donald Trump as the US president, even the countries of West Asia, including Qatar, Egypt, they also do not want to meddle in this entire conflict by supporting Hamas or Hamas leadership. So Hamas is right now cornered, and it remains to be seen that whether the Israeli Defense Forces will be able to agree for a ceasefire, especially the public opinion will agree for a ceasefire with Hamas.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much, Akshay, for your inputs. Updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. A Ukrainian delegation led by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov is visiting South Korea this week for weapons aid. As per reports, the group was expected to meet their South Korean counterparts as early as Wednesday, while a spokesperson for South Korea's defense ministry declined to confirm whether a Ukrainian delegation had arrived in Seoul during a regular media briefing on Tuesday. The delegation had met with South Korea's National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik to exchange views on the conflict in Ukraine. Earlier in October, South Korean broadcaster KBS mentioned that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Kyiv would send a detailed request to Seoul for armed support, including artillery and an air defense systems. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States is continuing to surge security assistance to bolster Ukraine's defenses in the East after meetings with a group of 7 democracies on Tuesday.
The U.S. is continuing to surge security assistance to bolster Ukraine's defenses in the East and to respond to the escalation by Russia and, in particular, now the involvement of troops from North Korea. And let me say on that that this is a matter of grave concern for all the members of the G7, both because of what it means for Ukraine, what it means for broader European security, but also what it means in the Indo-Pacific.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting outreach session with Indo-Pacific partners in Italy's Fiuggi. He noted that the Indo-Pacific is experiencing significant changes, including new convergences and partnerships. He said that the region's landscape today creates a compelling argument for a wider collaborative approach. Jaishankar highlighted 6 key responses required in the Indo-Pacific region: more collaborations in areas like maritime, semiconductors, supply chains, etc. More resources, both to support greater activities and projects as well as to avoid bad borrowing and unsustainable debt. More capacities in fields like governance, health, technology, disaster resilience and natural resource management. More interoperability and burden sharing to service the global commons and contribute to global good. Respect for international law as well as for mutuality of benefits. More options so that Indo-Pacific policymakers are able to make the right choices. The minister said that in the era of collaborative endeavors, the Indo-Pacific will require practical solutions, nimble diplomacy, greater adjustment and more open conversations, noting that G7 can be one such partner. And senior lawyer Mahesh Jethmalani stated that no criminal charges have been brought against any individual from the Adani Group or Adani Green in connection with the allegations in a US court.
No offence is alleged in the indictment against any of the Adanis or Adani Greens. Please remember that the whole issue is about issuing of bonds in the US by Adani Greens. The alleged violation in the US is that bonds were issued without informing the bondholders, the investors, that there were violations in India. Now, if that is the substratum of the whole case, please note, the case is that you induced people in America to subscribe to these bonds without informing them that you were indulging in bribes to get contracts in India.
And still to come on DD News Hour. Trump vows taxes on goods from Mexico, Canada and China. Namibians go to polls to elect a new president. Storm nears Tamil Nadu. Deep depression over southwest Bay of Bengal is likely to intensify into a cyclonic storm. Details ahead.
Lights, camera, IFFI. The stage is all set. Straight from the scenic Goa, we get you all the latest and live action from the 55th edition of International Film Festival of India, only on DD India.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD News Hour. I'm Prasar Bharati. On to weather updates. India's southern state Tamil Nadu witnessed widespread rains as the depression over the Bay of Bengal intensified into a deep depression. Projections by Meteorological Department shows the deep depression may intensify as cyclone Fangal by Wednesday noon. A red alert has also been issued in the Nagapattinam, Mayiladuthurai and Tiruvarur districts. The cyclonic storm is predicted to bring strong winds, heavy rainfall and high sea waves along Tamil Nadu's coastal districts including Nagapattinam, Puducherry, Kodlakkur and Chennai. National Disaster Response Force have been deployed in Tamil Nadu's vulnerable districts like Nagapattinam, Mayiladuthurai and Kadalur. Relief camps, medical teams and emergency operation centers have been set up to tackle the situation. Moreover, schools and colleges will also remain closed in several regions in anticipation of heavy rains. The deep depression over the southwest Bay of Bengal is also expected to affect Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's Met Department issued a warning of deep depression located about 240 kilometers southeast of Trincomalee on Tuesday. Heavy thunder showers with very heavy showers above 200 millimeters are forecast in most places of the island. Sri Lanka's National Building Research Organization has issued red notices for several divisional secretariat areas in the Kandy, Matali and Nuwara Elia districts. All right, DD India correspondent Ahmed Muin Farooqi joins us from Colombo, and also we have Annaberson who is joining us from Tamil Nadu. Welcome both of you. First to you, Dr. Farooqi. How's the current situation there, and what parts are likely to get affected?
Siddharth, in fact, the deep depression, it had initially started as a depression about almost 2 days ago, and now it has become a deep depression. It's likely to develop into a cyclonic storm. The eastern and the north central regions have been severely impacted. In fact, the Sri Lanka's Disaster Management Center has said that over 10,000 people have already been relocated to the center. Like situations in various parts of it. Several reservoirs are nearing danger level, and with regard to the low-lying areas. In addition to that, Sri Lanka Police and Disaster Management Center, they have set up hotlines for people so that they can contact in case of an emergency and to provide assistance, especially to the northern part of the island. In fact, it is anticipated that the northern province, the north central and the eastern province will continue to receive very heavy showers going beyond 200 mm over the next 24 hours as the storm develops into a cyclone. In addition to that, it is also important to note that the National Building Research Organization has sounded alerts with regard to landslide notices, considering that this is something which is very, very common in cases where rains are more than 150 mm over a 24-hour period. So there is, a significant impact with regard to how it has, disturbed the daily life of people across the island. In fact, even the place where I am in, it's Colombo, it's on the western coast of Sri Lanka. Even Colombo and various other parts of the western province are also impacted. There has been rain of over 100 mm as well as winds of about 40 to 50 km per hour. Siddharth.
Okay. Dr. Farooqi, stay with us. I'll come back to you. Now, Annaberson, you tell me, what are you getting for us? What's your assessment of where you are right now?
As last 2 days in Tamil Nadu and also the Puducherry Union Territory, we can see that the rainfall has been significantly high, particularly the Kanjipuram, Tiruvallur, Chennai and the Chengalpattu region, that is called KTCC region, and also the Delta district of Kaveri, where the heavy rain and also flooded, the red alert has given to the Mailadurai and also Tiruvarur and Nagapattinam district. And the state administration government has held a meet in Chief Minister held a meet in Chennai, and also the full swing of all the preparation is going on, as the NDRF also in full swing to giving a proper instruction, and also they reached various districts, particularly Delta region, because the southwest Bay of Bengal, where the deep depression is going to intensify, it is a projection that it may affect the Delta district the first, and also the near the Trikonamali region of Sri Lanka. So that much of preparation is going on there, and also last 2 days the schools and colleges shut down for the KTCC and also the Delta district, and we can see that the heavy rainfall, and also last month also there is a heavy rainfall in the Chennai region. So this rainfall more add on that, so more precaution, particularly the low-lying area of Chennai, because the last year also we can see that flood situation happened. So the state government and also the National Disaster Relief Force and various forces are full swing on making preparation. Particularly, the Indian Meteorological Department said that next 12 hours it may go intensified as a cyclone, may be called as a Bengal, the name given by the Saudi Arabia. So we can see the full preparation from the state side and also the Delta region all in full time.
All right, Annaberson and Dr. Farooqi, thank you so much for your analysis, both of you. Heavy snow blanketed large parts of northern China on Tuesday, forcing many highways to close and upsetting travelers. The Met officials have issued red alert for blizzards and activated a level 3 emergency response in Heilongjiang province. Severe rain and snow accompanied by strong winds are expected in the area. The heavy snowfall is expected to persist until Wednesday. Local emergency services are on high alert and residents are urged to avoid unnecessary travel. Moving on, Mexico and China have issued warnings of retaliatory measures, and Canada urged unity as US President-elect Donald Trump's tariff announcements reel the world markets and unsettled its neighbors and China. Trump chose trade lawyer Jameson Greer as his new US trade representative, elevating a key veteran of his first-term trade war against China. Here's a report.
The leaders of Mexico and Canada have urged dialogue and cooperation after US President-elect Donald Trump pledged to impose 25% tariffs on two countries when he takes office early next year. Trump has also promised 10% additional tariffs on all imports from China. China too responded by saying that economic and trade cooperation is mutually beneficial for both the countries and that no one will win a trade war or a tariff war. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to Trump on the phone shortly after he announced his plans. Trudeau has since said that he is prepared to work with the US in a constructive way.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
The other neighboring country, Mexico, also urged caution. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said neither threats nor tariffs would solve the issues raised, and also warned of retaliatory tariffs on US imports if Trump goes ahead. She said that she is planning to write to Trump, stressing the need to work together on joint challenges.
To one tariff will become another, and so on, until we put our common businesses at risk. Mexico's main exporters to the United States, which came to Mexico 8 years ago, why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? Why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? It is not acceptable and would cause the US and the Mexico inflation and job losses. I think that there's going to be an agreement with the United States and with President Trump.
No es aceptable. During highly charged presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly promised increased tariffs on all imports into the US. Team Trump portrayed the tariffs policy as a key tool to bring back jobs and manufacturing from overseas. However, the experts believe that the new tariffs can have serious implications not only for the US but also for the global supply chains and companies that do business with some of the world's largest economies. Trump made his threat in social media posts announcing 25% tariffs against neighbors Canada and Mexico, and also 10% additional tariffs on China if they don't stop illegal immigration and drug smuggling into the United States. Bureau Report, TD India.
More names have been announced for Donald Trump's team. The US President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday chose Stanford academic and US COVID policy critic Jay Bhattacharya to run the National Institutes of Health, the country's top public funder of medical research, with a budget of about $47.3 billion. Trump has named Jameson Greer his trade representative, a key figure in implementing Trump's economic agenda, particularly his plans to use tariffs to raise revenue and help bring more manufacturing to US shores. Trump also picked Kevin Hassett as his top economic advisor, bringing the member of his first administration to head the White House National Economic Council, which helps set domestic and international economic policy. Namibians go to the polls on Wednesday to elect a new president and parliament in what could be a tough election for the ruling SWAPO party, which is seeking to extend its 34-year rule. SWAPO has governed the southern African nation since leading it to independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990. Its presidential candidate, Vice President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, would be the country's first female leader if she wins. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Massive protests rock Bangladesh. India expresses deep concern over Chinmoy Krishnadas's arrest. International tourism mart underway in Kaziranga, highlighting tourism potential of the northeastern Indian states.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire comes into effect after months-long fighting. Netanyahu says won't hesitate to strike if any part of deal broken. Pakistan government's midnight crackdown ends protest by Imran Khan's party in Islamabad. And India's Divith Reddy becomes World Under-8 chess champion. Unprecedented turmoil in Bangladesh continues after Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari was arrested on Monday on sedition charges, for which he was denied bail on Tuesday. One person was killed in clashes between police and protesters in the port city of Chittagong on Tuesday. The caretaker government of Mohammad Yunus has ordered a probe into the alleged killing and stepped up security in the city. Meanwhile, the harassment of media personnel is also on increase in Bangladesh. India's Ministry of External Affairs on Tuesday expressed deep concern over Chinmoy Krishnadas's arrest and denial of bail. The MEA added that it's unfortunate that perpetrators of these incidents remain at large while a religious leader is pressed with charges. All right, and Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh from Delhi, has joined us to discuss more on this. Welcome, High Commissioner. Situation is certainly not good in Bangladesh, and whatever happened or is happening is highly condemnable. How do you analyze the entire situation?
Yes, actually, it is definitely condemnable, and it's a matter of great concern that the minorities in Bangladesh are under such severe attack. This has been the situation right from the 5th of August, which is the day when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh and came to India. And the first target of attack were the minorities, and there were, rapes and killings and lootings and abductions. As you know, it was taken up very strongly by our government with the Bangladesh government. Our Prime Minister spoke about it from the ramparts of Red Fort. He discussed it with President Joe Biden. And of course, there were assurances that yes, the situation is going to be normal, and Bangladesh believes in communal harmony. And the present interim government, they have taken oath under the constitution of Bangladesh, which has secularism and democracy as its two main pillars, in addition nationalism and socialism. But it seems that Professor Mohammad Yunus does not seem to be in control at all, and he is being forced by the Jamaat-e-Islami and other Islamist parties, even the Tahrir is being talked about, to do all these actions which are targeting the minorities and trying to force them to leave. The Buddhist minorities in Khankrachari were targeted, and they're all being told to leave. Now you're seeing these huge numbers of people who are there. The remarkable fact about this, the visuals you're showing, that this is the younger generation. This is the younger generation of the minority. They're saying, we are citizens of this country. We will stay. We want our rights. And they've in fact made a list of 8 demands, the 8-point demand. And as you also rightly pointed out, even the coverage, the journalist coverage of such events is coming under criticism. Many people are not writing about it at all. And the world community is talking about the fact that journalism in Bangladesh, free media, is under complete threat. Hundreds of journalists have lost their jobs, they've been put in jail, they've been charged with murder. And this at a time when these very people, the government, when Sheikh Hasina was Prime Minister, they used to blame her that you're not allowing freedom of the press. And now they're doing exactly the same thing. And Chinmoy Prabhu, whom you're showing on the visuals, he is the person who is formerly with ISKCON. And in Bangladesh, it is the ISKCON and the Ramakrishna Mission. These are the two institutions that have always helped all communities, right from 1971. Anybody who needed food, shelter, any kind of help, they were there. Clothes, and they were there always helping them with everything. But now the government, the Jamaat-e-Islami, is turning on them. And they are, trying to stop all their meetings. In fact, the present incident when Chinmoy Prabhu was arrested, he's been charged sedition. And what is this sedition? Apparently, in one of the meetings, they're saying, the flag, a yellow flag, was higher than the national flag. The minority communities, whenever they have their meetings, they first raise the national flag and then they sing the national anthem. And they are very, very loyal to their country, to their flag, and so on. And now to put this charge of sedition, which is something which even Sheikh Hasina never did. Nobody puts this charge of sedition. And the Hindu community, remember, they said, look, it is not true. We never raised any flag above the national flag. And now when the protesters turned up in Chittagong, when the hearing was going on in the court and bail was denied for Chinmoy Prabhu, then a lot of people were agitated, but the police attacked the agitators. And they would not let them go anywhere. You're seeing the police attacking the agitators, and this is the unheard of. The perpetrators of the violence, the perpetrators of all the incidents since 5th of August, none of them have been attacked. None of them have been caught. None of them have been apprehended. There has been no justice for any of the attacks on the minorities since the 5th of August. But on the other hand, the people who are the victims of these attacks, they are now being charged, they are being chased, they're being accused even of sedition. So it is a matter of great concern that in Bangladesh, which is prided itself all these decades of being a secular country, of allowing all kinds of festivals, and being completely one which is together in living together with all communities and ethnicities and religions, they are now facing this situation. And you're seeing the large numbers of people who are taking to the streets and who will not be cowed down by these threats.
Okay. High Commissioner, in a latest in this particular matter, the Rights and Risks Analysis Group, RRAG, has filed a complaint with the UN Working Group on arbitrary detention against illegal and arbitrary detention of the most prominent minority Hindu religious monk in Bangladesh, which is Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari, by the interim government of Bangladesh headed by Dr. Muhammad Yunus. How do you see this, and what implications do you think it will have now?
Well, I certainly hope that the UN will take account of it. The RRAG has been waging a very strong struggle in favor of the minorities of Bangladesh and has been pointing out not only to the government of Bangladesh but to all global institutions that this is just not on. This kind of genocidal attacks on the minorities cannot be allowed to continue. We saw, for example, the RRAG had also taken up the attacks on the Buddhists in Khagrachari some weeks ago, and how the Buddhists did not even celebrate their major festival of the year because they were so concerned at the situation. Because both in Khagrachari in September and in Chittagong in October and November, we were seeing even army soldiers taking part in the attacks on the minorities. So this has really jolted the comfort levels, the living conditions of the minorities. They are now totally scared to come out, to follow their economic professions, to be a part of the national life, and they don't know what will happen to them next. So the RRAG has done right in taking it up at the higher level and calling for the world's attention on what is happening in Bangladesh.
Okay.
We are certainly very concerned, and as you have shown, the government of India has put out a strong note about it. But in reply to that note, the government of Bangladesh said nothing. They said, oh, this is our internal matter, and we have communal harmony, and look, Durga Puja happened normally, and we know in Durga Puja there were a lot of attacks on many pandals, but there's complete denial by the interim government, complete denial.
Indeed. High Commissioner, After MEA, you were just mentioning this. After MEA issued statement, Dhaka reacted and called the issue an internal affairs of Bangladesh. What do you make out of it?
Well, they certainly get very upset when, although the first time when it happened in August itself, when our Prime Minister had taken it up with Chief Advisor Professor Mohammed Yunus, and he had mentioned this even in the letter of congratulations that he sent to the Chief Advisor. The Indian government has from the very first day said that we are prepared to deal with the new government and we are prepared to talk to them and maintain the bilateral relationship. The chief advisor at that time had telephoned Prime Minister Modi, and it seemed that he would be taking a lot of interest in this and he would be ensuring that communal harmony has been preserved. But it didn't happen like that. And in fact, when the first attack was violent and directly on the Hindu minorities, the second wave of attacks came on the economic livelihoods of the minorities. And they were forced to give up their jobs. Professors in university were surrounded and asked to resign. Teachers in schools were surrounded and asked to resign. And this is all this kind of a complete mobocracy, that it happens that a whole group of people come and force the people to resign, and then you say, well, they've done it on their own. So it's a very, very strange situation where the Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to force the situation, but at the same time don't want any responsibility. And in fact, the leaders of the Jamaat-e-Islami, even as we speak, they are in London meeting people there, meeting members of parliament there, and saying, we are a very moderate Islamic party and we don't do anything and we are believing in all religion, when their own constitution of the political party talks about the supremacy of the Quran and the supremacy of the religious law.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's a very difficult situation. We are very really concerned about this because of the complete denial from the interim government.
All right, High Commissioner, thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast. And in Pakistan, former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party suspended street protests demanding his release from jail after a sweeping midnight raid by security forces in capital Islamabad. According to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf statement, the party had announced a temporary suspension of the protest in which at least 6 people, including 4 paramilitary soldiers and 2 protesters, have been killed. The heavily fortified red zone was empty of protesters, but several of their vehicles were left behind, including the remains of a truck from which Bushra Bibi had been leading the protests that appeared charred by flames. PTI had planned on staging a sit-in in the red zone until the release of Khan, who has been in jail since August last year. In India, the winter session of Parliament entered its 3rd day on Wednesday. Proceedings in the upper house began with Chairman of Rajya Sabha Jagdeep Dhankar extending birthday wishes to members in the House. Upper house was adjourned before any business could be transacted amid ruckus by the opposition members demanding discussion on the Adani matter under Rule 267. The proceedings of the lower house or Lok Sabha began on Wednesday with question hour where Minister Ashwini Vaishnav replied to a member's question regarding laws to check vulgar content on social media. Ruckus by the opposition on immediate discussion on the Sambhal violence led to adjournment of the lower house, both houses to reconvene on Thursday at 11 a.m. IST. Earlier in the day, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla along with members of the Parliament offered floral tributes to Ganesh Vasudev Mavalankar on his birth anniversary. Mavalankar was the first Speaker of Lok Sabha. Kaziranga in Assam is hosting the International Tourism Mart with a 4-day event that began on Tuesday. Organized by the Ministry of Tourism in collaboration with Assam Tourism, the event aims to showcase and promote Assam and Northeast India as global tourism destinations. The event was officially inaugurated on Wednesday by Tourism Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma and Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Pema Khandu. Delegates from across the country and abroad have gathered to participate in discussions and exhibitions highlighting the region's rich culture, heritage and tourism potential.
The area which has a great legacy, rich cultures, great cultural diversity and simultaneously a great biodiversity. This ITM, which has been hosted by Government of Assam under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma ji, is going to be a great opportunity for the northeastern states to showcase their richness of culture and diversity, and simultaneously it's an opportunity for the people from the travel trade all across the country and world.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Sri Lanka's cabinet approves 219 billion rupees supplementary estimate and interim budget for 2025. In sports, India will take on Thailand in their opening match at the Junior Asia Cup Men's Hockey Tournament. IFFI is hosting a special centenary celebration paying tribute to Bollywood's iconic stars. Stay tuned to know more. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India leads the world in cooperative movement with a share of 25%. However, for the first time in International Cooperative Alliance's 130-year history, India plays host to global event. The ICA Global Cooperative Conference 2024 will enhance the visibility of Indian cooperatives across global platforms.
ICA conducted in India is also very great for us because for Bhutan being an associate member of ICA, we are attending physically for the first time. Well, not only me, we also have 3 representatives for group and cooperative for Bhutan. They are also attending for the first time the General ICA General Assembly and this global conference. And we are also lucky that India has hosted this ICA after a long time back, and the launch of 2025 Year of Cooperative is also very great for us.
We see it as a real opportunity to increase the awareness for the general public, as well as to do an even better job at advocacy, to make sure that we have a policy ecosystem that supports people who want to use cooperatives to solve today's problems. Now, we heard yesterday from your Prime Minister just how committed the government is to making sure that people can use cooperatives, and I think it can be a real example for other places across the world.
Sri Lanka's cabinet has approved the presentation of a supplementary estimate of 219 billion rupees to Parliament aimed at funding key expenditure items, including 130 billion rupee interest subsidy for debts assumed by taxpayers. The allocation will remain within the approved expenditure and debt limits for 2024. The cabinet has also approved presentation of an interim budget for the first 4 months of 2025, as there was no time to present budget 2025 due to dissolution of the parliament in September. The interim budget is part of a broader plan to ensure the continuity of government operations while preparing for the full 2025 budget. Germany needs hundreds of thousands of skilled workers from abroad each year to fill in the labour gap. According to a new study, failure to attract these new workers could shrink the size of the German workforce considerably. But is German attractive enough for foreign workers? In fact, Germany, for more on this, we are joined by DW's Wada Imran in Berlin. Wada, why is there suddenly such a big labour gap in Germany?
Thanks for having me.
Well, the biggest reason this is happening is because the baby boomer generation, or the generation of people born between 1946 and 1964, these are called baby boomers, this is the generation in Germany that's going to retire or has already retired, leaving these spaces in employment in different sectors and industries. This presents huge challenges for Germany, which usually relies on a strong and stable workforce. Now, a new study from the Bertelsmann Foundation here poses two scenarios. One is the optimistic one, which says that Germany needs an influx of over 250,000 workers per year. And if this doesn't happen, then the German workforce would shrink by 10% without, quote, substantial migration. And a second, more pessimistic scenario is that Germany would need more than 360,000 workers from abroad each year until 2040, and then 270,000 workers until the year 2060, meaning that Germany could still be hunting for more talent 30 years later.
All right, thank you so much for your analysis, and time now for sport updates. A confident India will start as firm favourites when they take on Thailand in their opening match of the Junior Asia Cup men's hockey tournament on Wednesday. India have been placed in Pool A along with Korea, Japan, Chinese Taipei and Thailand. With 10 teams participating in the event this time, the remaining 5 teams in Pool B are Pakistan, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Oman and China. India have won this tournament for a record 4 times in 2004, 2008, 2015 and 2023. Last year, India beat arch rivals Pakistan 2-1 in the final to lift the title. 8-year-old Divith Reddy created history on Tuesday by becoming a world champion in the Under-8 World Cadets Chess Championship in Italy. The Hyderabad's chess prodigy accumulated 9 out of a possible 11 points, the same as his compatriot Satvik Swain. However, Divith clinched the gold based on his superior tie-break score, and Satvik settled for silver. Divith, who has a FIDE rating of 1784 points, prevailed, overcoming a 3-way tie against compatriot Satvik and China's Ziming Guo. Making a rollicking start to his campaign, Divith won his first 4 matches, but a brief slump followed with 2 consecutive losses. However, he bounced back in the tournament, showing his mental strength to win his final 5 rounds and secure the top spot. India's D. Gukesh is squaring off with defending champion Ding Liren of China in the 3rd round of World Chess Championship match in Singapore on Wednesday. The first round was won by Liren, while second ended in a draw. The championship between Gukesh and Liren consists of 14 games. The first player to score 7.5 points will be crowned the world champion. If the match ends in tie, after 14 games, a tie break will be held on the following day to determine the winner. India will host the Asian Rifle and Pistol Cup in 2026. The decision to give India the tournament was taken by Asian Shooting Confederation. In a letter to the National Rifle Association of India, the Asian Shooting Confederation has asked for the proposed dates for the tournament. India has already hosted 6 top international shooting sport federation competitors, including 2 World Cup finals. Updates now on the 55th edition of Indian International Film Festival. The IFFI is hosting a special centenary celebration paying tribute to Bollywood's iconic stars who are completing their 100 years. The exhibition has been named as Safarnama. DD India's Deepika Mehto has more.
In a unique initiative, the International Film Festival of India, in its 55th edition, is conducting centenary celebrations of the legends of Indian cinema. IFFI 2024 promises to bring music, art and culture to the heart of entertainment. Keeping that up, a beautiful exhibition has been unveiled called Safarnama, Evolution of Indian Cinema at Kala Academy in Goa. The multimedia exhibition is set up by Central Bureau of Communication, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, with a view to reach out to the people regarding India's rich cinematic tradition and history. The history of Indian cinema dates back to the film Raja Harishchandra when India was under colonial rule. Even with that, India managed to create a cinematic mind. That tradition has been kept intact till now. This particular initiative from IFFI aims at saluting that rich heritage and showcasing the tradition, especially before the young students, to entice their interests in cinema and the rich cultural value we have inherited through it.
Old is always gold. Raj Kapoor, when I was a child, those times we used to get nice stories, were very cool, nice, understanding, सीख मिलती थी हम लोगों को. And there is a lot of difference, but मेरे बच्चों को मिला देखने के लिए, that is very important. So I have come with my school children. Even थोड़े actress without any makeup भी करते थे. It was natural था सब. And there is differentiate कर सकते हैं ना बच्चे कि क्या था पहले, क्या अभी क्या है.
In the Safarnama exhibition, 4 galleries are dedicated for the 4 legends whose centenary is being celebrated at IFFI this year. Raj Kapoor, Mohammad Rafi, Tapan Sinha and Akkineni Nageswara Rao. The exhibition honors these 4 cinematic legends with curated content and rare archival materials, including posters, videos and memorabilia, paying tribute to these iconic figures who shaped Indian cinema.
And there you saw a special tribute to the legends of Indian cinema that is being celebrated at the 55th edition of International Film Festival of India. With camera person Ajit, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Goa.
India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati launched its own OTT platform Waves during International Film Festival of India in Goa. It offers a broad spectrum of entertainment and news content. The app is now available for download on Android and iOS devices. The platform aims to cater to a wide audience with its mix of live channels, movies, TV shows, games and live events. The application can be downloaded via a QR code also. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.